Imagine being just 13 years old, lying in a hospital bed, with the world around you unraveling into chaos. Doctors rush frantically, their voices a blend of urgency and concern, while the rhythmic beeping of machines fills the sterile air. The faces of your family, usually a source of comfort, now blur in and out of view, etched with worry and fear. Your body feels heavy, almost as though it's being pulled into the very mattress beneath you. Every breath becomes a struggle. Every second feels like an eternity. Suddenly, the familiar begins to dissolve. A silent darkness wraps around you, and for a moment, everything stills. Then, out of the abyss, a gentle light appears. It is soft, warm, and inviting, a beacon calling you forward. Without understanding how, you begin to drift, feeling an unfamiliar lightness that contrasts with the weight of moments before. You look down and realize you're no longer confined to your body. Below you, the hospital room comes into view, your physical form lying motionless on the bed. The sight is surreal, almost otherworldly, yet you feel no fear, only a profound sense of calm and acceptance. What lies ahead defies comprehension. A journey beyond the limits of life unfolds, revealing unimaginable beauty, overwhelming love, and the presence of a figure so powerful and radiant it redefines everything you thought you knew. This is the story of a young girl's remarkable encounter with the divine, a glimpse into a heavenly realm that left her forever changed. But this is not just a tale of wonder, it is also a message. A message she was sent back to deliver, a message for you. Before we dive into her extraordinary journey, I want to invite you to join our community by subscribing to this channel. By doing so, you'll gain access to more stories that inspire, uplift, and deepen your understanding of faith. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's embark on this incredible journey together. At just 13 years old, death was not something she had ever considered. It was a distant, almost abstract concept, reserved for the elderly, tragic news stories, or the dramatic moments in movies. Life at that age was supposed to be filled with innocence and possibility. Yet, there she was, lying in a hospital bed in Los Angeles, her frail body surrounded by machines beeping faintly in the dim light. Her family stood nearby, their faces pale with worry, their whispered prayers filling the room like a chorus of desperation. She wanted to tell them she was okay, to somehow ease their fear, but her body betrayed her. Her limbs felt like they were made of stone, too heavy to move. Even opening her eyes was a battle she couldn't win. It was as though she were sinking deeper into herself, her connection to the physical world slipping away, one moment at a time. Doctors and nurses moved quickly around her, their hushed conversations blending into the background, a symphony of controlled chaos. Despite the flurry of activity, she felt herself fading. Her mother's hand, which she gripped as tightly as she could, felt warm and grounding at first, a tether to life. But even that began to change. Her mother's touch started to feel distant, almost ethereal, as if her fingers were slipping through hers like grains of sand. She wanted to hold on, to stay, but the pull of something greater was too strong. The darkness that followed was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It wasn't frightening or cold. Instead, it was peaceful, a deep, comforting silence that enveloped her like a warm blanket. Time lost all meaning in that void. Seconds could have been hours, and hours could have been seconds. In that stillness, every worry, every fear, every earthly concern seemed to dissolve. She was weightless, floating in a space that felt both infinite and intimate at the same time. Then a shift. In the corner of the darkness, a light appeared. At first, it was just a faint glimmer, almost unnoticeable. But as the moments passed, it grew brighter, warmer, and more inviting. It wasn't just light, it was life radiating a love and kindness that words could never fully capture. It called to her, pulling her closer without force, like a loving parent calling a child home. Without hesitation, she moved toward it. And with every step, the burdens she had carried, fear, anxiety, and doubt, seemed to fall away. She felt lighter, freer, and more alive than she ever had in her earthly body. As she drew nearer to the light, the hospital room below her faded from view, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace and purpose. The world as she knew it was gone. What lay ahead was something entirely new, a journey into the unknown, guided by a presence that promised love, understanding, and answers to the questions that had always lingered in her heart. Subscribe to our channel now to join us on more journeys of faith and transformation. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an inspiring story like this one. As she moved closer to the warm light, an extraordinary thing happened. She found herself looking down at the hospital room from above. It was surreal, as if she had become a silent observer of her own life. Below her, she saw her physical body lying still on the hospital bed, pale and frail. Her mother remained by her side, holding her hand tightly, tears streaming down her face as whispered prayers escaped her trembling lips. The sight was both strange and deeply moving. She could see the love and worry etched into every line on her mother's face. Nurses moved hurriedly, adjusting machines and speaking in urgent tones. Yet, despite the commotion, there was a profound stillness in her new vantage point, a calm detachment that made her see the scene with a clarity she had never known. From above, she felt no fear or sadness, only an overwhelming sense of peace. It was as if every worry, every struggle she had faced in life had been lifted, leaving behind a serenity that wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. The chaos of the room below seemed to exist in a different dimension, far removed from the deep stillness she now inhabited. She wanted to reach out, to somehow reassure her family that she was okay, that she wasn't in pain, but she quickly realized that she had no physical voice. Her new form, whatever it was, seemed weightless and limitless, but it lacked the ability to touch or communicate with those she loved. Still, the love she felt for them was immense, a connection that transcended words or actions. It was then that her attention turned fully to the light. It had grown brighter and closer, filling the space with an indescribable warmth. It wasn't just light, it was alive, radiating a love so pure and powerful that it seemed to erase every lingering trace of fear or doubt. She felt herself being drawn to it, not out of force, but out of a deep, unexplainable longing. The further she moved away from the hospital room and toward the light, the more she felt a profound shift within her. The world she had known, the physical, the tangible, felt distant and almost insignificant in comparison to the overwhelming love and peace that the light offered. It was as though she were shedding the weight of her earthly existence, step by step, and stepping into something far greater. And yet, as she drifted closer to the source of this incredible light, she couldn't help but feel a quiet ache in her soul, a longing for the loved ones she was leaving behind. Would they be okay without her? Would they understand the peace she now felt? As she approached the light, it began to fill every corner of her awareness, wrapping her in a presence so profound it was almost indescribable. This wasn't just light. It was life itself, radiating love, peace, and a sense of belonging so overwhelming that she felt tears welling up, though she wasn't sure if she even had tears to shed in this form. The light didn't burn or blind. Instead, it felt like the warm embrace of a loved one, the feeling of being home after a long journey. It was more than comforting. It was transformative. In its presence, every ounce of fear, pain, and regret seemed to evaporate, leaving behind nothing but pure, unfiltered peace. And then, out of the light, a figure began to emerge. It was neither hurried nor startling. It was as though the light itself was taking shape. As the figure drew closer, she realized it was a man clothed in a robe so white it seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow. His face was radiant, filled with kindness and wisdom. His eyes met hers, and in that instant she knew this was Jesus. His gaze wasn't like any she had ever encountered. It held no judgment, only an unconditional love so deep that it felt as though he could see every corner of her soul and still embrace her fully. There were no words at first, only a profound understanding that passed between them. When he finally spoke, his voice was unlike anything she had heard before, gentle yet powerful, carrying with it an eternal resonance. "Welcome, my child," he said, the warmth in his words washing over her like waves on a tranquil shore. She wanted to speak, to respond, but she found herself overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of his presence. It was as though everything she had ever questioned, every fear she had held onto, melted away in the light of his love. Jesus extended his hand toward her, and when she reached out to take it, an indescribable peace flowed through her. It was as though all the burdens of her life were lifted in that single touch. He smiled at her, and she felt as if the entire universe smiled with him, a joy so pure it brought her to the brink of tears. As they began to walk together through the radiant light, she noticed that the world around her was shifting. Colors more vibrant than anything on earth began to emerge. There was a garden blooming with life, its flowers so vivid and unique that some seemed like entirely new creations. The air was alive with a melody so gentle yet powerful that it resonated with every fiber of her being. Animals moved peacefully in the distance, deer, birds, even lions, all coexisting in perfect harmony. Everything in this place seemed to flow together in a way that was both awe-inspiring and comforting, as if the very fabric of this world was woven from the essence of love itself. "Is this heaven?" she finally asked, her voice trembling with wonder. Jesus turned to her, his face glowing with kindness. "This is a glimpse of what awaits," he said. "A place I have prepared for those who love me. Here, there is no pain, no sorrow, only peace and joy everlasting." Her heart ached with questions. What about her family? Would they be okay? How could she ever leave a place so perfect? Jesus seemed to read her thoughts, his compassion shining through. "Your family will be cared for," he reassured her. "And I am always with them, just as I am with you." The radiant garden seemed to stretch endlessly, a realm where every corner pulsed with life and peace. As they walked further, Jesus guided her to the edge of a shimmering river. It wasn't like any river she had seen before. The water sparkled as if infused with liquid diamonds, its surface reflecting the light in a dance of brilliance. It wasn't just water. It felt alive, carrying with it an energy that seemed to resonate with her very soul. Jesus knelt by the riverbank, dipping his hand into the water. The ripples that spread out were mesmerizing, each one shimmering with its own light. "This," he said gently, "is the river of life. It flows through this place, bringing life and renewal to everything it touches." She knelt beside him, hesitantly placing her fingers in the cool, crystal-clear water. As soon as her hand touched it, an indescribable sensation coursed through her, a mix of warmth, vitality, and a deep, calming peace. It was as if every part of her being, both physical and spiritual, was renewed in that moment. The water seemed to carry a melody, a faint hum of harmony that she could feel more than hear. It spoke not in words, but in a language of pure love and connection. She withdrew her hand, marveling at how alive she felt, vibrant, whole, as though every burden she had ever carried had been washed away in an instant. Jesus watched her with a tender smile, his presence radiating warmth and understanding. "This river," he explained, "is a reflection of the life I give. It nourishes, renews, and sustains. Just as this water restores the beauty around us, so does my love restore every soul willing to receive it." As they stood by the river, the serene beauty of the scene filled her with a profound sense of gratitude. But a question that had lingered in her heart rose to the surface, one she couldn't suppress. "When will the world end?" she asked softly, looking to him for answers. Jesus turned to her, his expression a mix of compassion and wisdom. "That is something many have wondered," he said, his voice as steady and reassuring as the river itself. "The end of the world is not to be feared. It is not an end, but a new beginning, a time when all things will be made right." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle in. "There will be signs," he continued, "but they are not meant to cause fear. Wars, disasters, and turmoil may come, but those who love God need not worry. Instead, live with love, help those in need, and share God's light with the world. That is what truly matters." Her heart felt lighter at his words, a newfound understanding dawning within her. It wasn't about predicting the end, but about living each day with purpose and faith. As they lingered by the river, she felt a growing sense of peace, a conviction that her life still had meaning and a mission yet to be fulfilled. As they stood by the river of life, the girl felt an overwhelming desire to stay in this paradise forever. Every part of her being longed to remain in the peace, joy, and love that surrounded her. But as if reading her thoughts, Jesus turned to her, his face kind yet serious. "It is almost time for you to go back," he said gently. Her heart sank. "Do I have to?" she asked, her voice trembling with sadness at the thought of leaving this perfect place. Jesus nodded, his gaze filled with understanding. "Your time here is not yet complete. There is still work for you to do on earth. People need to hear of God's love, and through your story, you can help them find their way. Remember, I will always be with you, no matter where you go." She took a deep breath, her sadness mingling with a sense of purpose. "What should I do?" she asked, searching his eyes for guidance. "Live your life with love," Jesus replied. "Love God with all your heart and love others as you love yourself. Help those in need, forgive those who hurt you, and shine God's light in everything you do. Trust that you are never alone, for I am with you always." As he spoke, everything around them began to blur, the radiant garden fading into a warm, glowing light. Jesus embraced her one final time, and in that moment, all her fears melted away. "Remember," he whispered, "this is not goodbye. When your time on earth is complete, you will return here, to this place of eternal joy and peace." Suddenly, she felt herself being pulled away, back into the world she had left behind. The next thing she knew, her eyes fluttered open to the sight of her mother's tear-streaked face. She was back in her hospital bed, her family gathered around her in shock and relief. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering prayers of gratitude. In that moment, she knew her life had forever changed. She had been given a second chance, not just to live, but to fulfill a greater purpose. The peace and love she had experienced in that beautiful place were not hers to keep. They were gifts to be shared. Now, she lives each day with a renewed sense of mission, sharing her story and spreading God's light wherever she goes. Her journey serves as a powerful reminder that life is not just about existing. It's about loving, giving, and preparing for the eternity that awaits. The return and the mission. As they stood by the river of life, the girl felt an overwhelming desire to stay in this paradise forever. Every part of her being longed to remain in the peace, joy, and love that surrounded her. But as if reading her thoughts, Jesus turned to her, his face kind yet serious. "It is almost time for you to go back," he said gently. Her heart sank. "Do I have to?" she asked, her voice trembling with sadness at the thought of leaving this perfect place. Jesus nodded, his gaze filled with understanding. "Your time here is not yet complete. There is still work for you to do on earth. People need to hear of God's love, and through your story, you can help them find their way. Remember, I will always be with you, no matter where you go." She took a deep breath, her sadness mingling with a sense of purpose. "What should I do?" she asked, searching his eyes for guidance. "Live your life with love," Jesus replied. "Love God with all your heart and love others as you love yourself. Help those in need, forgive those who hurt you, and shine God's light in everything you do. Trust that you are never alone, for I am with you always." As he spoke, everything around them began to blur, the radiant garden fading into a warm, glowing light. Jesus embraced her one final time, and in that moment, all her fears melted away. "Remember," he whispered, "this is not goodbye. When your time on earth is complete, you will return here, to this place of eternal joy and peace." Suddenly, she felt herself being pulled away, back into the world she had left behind. The next thing she knew, her eyes fluttered open to the sight of her mother's tear-streaked face. She was back in her hospital bed, her family gathered around her in shock and relief. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering prayers of gratitude. In that moment, she knew her life had forever changed. She had been given a second chance, not just to live, but to fulfill a greater purpose. The peace and love she had experienced in that beautiful place were not hers to keep. They were gifts to be shared. Now, she lives each day with a renewed sense of mission, sharing her story and spreading God's light wherever she goes. Her journey serves as a powerful reminder that life is not just about existing. It's about loving, giving, and preparing for the eternity that awaits. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of her journey resonated with you the most? And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. By subscribing and turning on notifications, you'll never miss a chance to reflect, connect, and grow in your faith. Together, let's spread hope and light to the world.